Welcome back, everybody. Only 7 people have earned the Mark Twain Prize and a Kennedy Center honor. Lily Tomlin, Steve Martin, David Letterman, Lorne Michaels, Neil Simon, Carol Burnett, and our next guest. Please welcome Billy Crystal.
So good to have you back.
I'm waving to the band.
Yeah.
How are you? Great to be back.
It's nice to have you here. It's nice to have you back in New York City. I apologize for the weather. It's a little
man, cold.
Yeah.
Very cold.
Well, you used to live here. You know what it's like.
Yeah, but I've been in California a long time.
So is this a shock to your system?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, blood gets very thin. And if it gets below 72, I need a wrap.
Oh. But you grew up here. You were a kid here. What was it like being? Do you remember that?
Oh, yes, I do.
Oh, that's very nice of you.
Do you remember that, Pop? Pop, when you were a kid, Pop, do you remember when you were a kid? You look like you, but smaller. Do you remember that? Yeah, the worst thing was on the cold days, going to school when it was dark.
Yeah.
In the morning, waiting for the bus. And now I walk around town here, and I really feel bad for the dogs.
Yeah.
They stand on a corner waiting, and it's like... Especially the Chihuahuas who have no meat on them at all. It's just that thing.
They're not meant to be outside.
Not meant to be. No, because they're apartment dogs. They're condo dogs.
Yeah.
So
we have an apartment dog.
Yeah.
Has an Italian Greyhound, basically, a fancy Chihuahua.
Yeah.
And hasn't been outside in years. We hold her up once a day just to look out the window.
Yeah. I've been thinking about. I've been dogless for a long time.
Okay. Are you thinking about getting back to the game?
Yes, I'm thinking about getting, and it's... Somebody else, do it.
Do it.
See, and if you say...
That's the tipping point. You just needed one stranger to yell at you.
Right, and then they do yell, because you say, I'm thinking about getting a dog, and they go, you're getting a rescue, right? It's going to be a rescue. You have to get a rescue. And I probably will, but I've been looking around.
Yeah.
And I ask people, that's a cute dog. What is that? And they go, well, that's a Bernedoodle. And well, what's that? Well, that's an Australian Bernedoodle. And what is that? That's a Golden Doodle. And what's that? That's a Microdoodle. Everything's a doodle. That's a Comma Doodle. That's this doodle. It's driving me crazy because every dog is bred through a French poodle.
Yeah.
This dog has got to be exhausted.
Well, you think it's just the one?
It's just the one.
You think it's just the one?
Yeah.
I never thought about that.
Well, he's French.
What a time.
Yeah. See, and they're all a little French, these dogs, so they're a little arrogant.
Yeah.
And some of them smoke.
Oh, my God. And then that's a problem. If you have an apartment dog who smokes, a lot of these apartment dogs, they won't let you.
They refuse to get the stick. If you get it, you get it. I'm not getting that. That's for you. That's for you to get.
We were not in the same photo, but I thought this was a wonderful thing. The New York Magazine did 5 different covers of alumni leading up to the 50th. You were over there. My friend Andy Samberg said he had a grand time with you and Lorraine Newman over here. He said the 3 of you guys had a good time chatting.
He's wonderful. And Lorraine I've known since the very first SNL.
Yeah. And I didn't realize the first year you were a cast member because you were, of course, famously or infamously, depending on you were cut from the first SNL.
Yes, I was.
And I'm glad you recovered.
Yeah.
Because I would imagine at the time you probably thought you weren't going to.
I thought my career was over.
Right.
I was very new to the stand-up world, only like 6-8 months. And then that summer, I was working at Catch a Rising Star, which was one of the first of the clubs. The Improv was on 44th Street, and Catch was on the East Side. And I was living on Long Island, so I went to Catch because I could get over the 59th Street Bridge easier than going to 8th Avenue and for the Improv. And I met this young producer named Lorne Michaels, told me about the show, and loved what I did, and I get booked on the very, very first show. Friday night, there was a dress rehearsal. My thing did really well. He asked me to take all this time out, and I couldn't to make the piece work. And I didn't have anything else because I was so new in my world. So I ended up at 8 o'clock being asked to, you're not going to be on the show. And at the time, it was a crusher. because then you got to go home and call the relatives to say you're not going to be on the phone with a dial phone. That took so much time
to think about.
And then the uncle's yelling from Florida. What did you do? Did you get fired? What did you say to the man? And then so now, you know, when I got off the elevator, they took me through 8H.
Tonight.
Yeah. And it's still it's Yankee Stadium.
Yeah, it is.
You know, the original Yankee Stadium.
Yes, exactly.
Right. And
with the original Yankee Stadium seats.
Those are stadium seats. Yeah. No, it's still the place after all these years. And I'll be at the reunion.
Yeah, I'll be there too. It's amazing. Yeah. It is this sort of trial by fire, and I feel like if you can get through SNL and come out with you know, with your identity intact, you can be fearless about everything. And you did something, and I remember watching this. Which was Billy Crystal, Midnight Train to Moscow. So this is 1989.
Oh, yes.
This is right after.
Are you applauding 1989?
I think they're applauding.
1988, nothing.
Yeah.
No, it was a fascinating thing.
Was it did you have the idea? Because again, this is not a time where anybody else was doing it.
No, it was during Glasnost.
Yeah.
And Gorbachev was in charge. And he wanted Western influence. And Michael Fuchs, who to me was a genius at HBO, called me and said, "You want to go to Moscow and do a show? No one's ever done it before. And so let's go." So I said, "Oh, wow, that's scary." So we went on a reconnaissance trip in August. And we traveled from Leningrad to Moscow. And that's the title came from that. You have to take a midnight train from Leningrad to Moscow. And so I met all of these people and thought, can I do this? What's the hook? And then I found out, while I was there, that I had about 30 relatives in Moscow that I did not know existed. And so the show became about finding my roots again and going back to where I came from, basically. So I started out, as we all do, making your parents laugh in our living room. And most of the relatives were from Rostov-on-the-Don or Odessa. Right? And so that's where I started. So here I was doing the show thousands and thousands of miles away from home here, performing again for relatives, but this time where they came from.
I'm glad glad's not the right word, but it is interesting to me that it was scary because I was wondering, like, were you worried to go over there? And then the thing that is even more terrifying to me is because I was watching it today, you did not speak Russian. You actually did like 5 minutes of your act in Russian. So you learned it for the purposes.
Yeah, I wrote jokes for an opening, and then I learned it in Russian, and I was very disarming with them and bold, you know, for what I wanted to talk about. So when we arrived there to do the show, I get a call that the United States ambassador wants to meet me and make sure I don't do anything that could start a war.
Right.
So we go over to...
It'd be a bummer if you ended Glasnost.
Would it be? Well, Glasnost ended up ending Gorbachev.
Yeah, it did.
It did. And it changed the whole way that Russia is now. And so, anyway, so we get to the embassy. "Hello, sir, nice to meet you." And he goes... So I'm tiptoeing around the embassy because it was bugged.
Yeah.
So this is the U.S. ambassador. No. So like behind a big plant. We're talking, yes, it's going to be at the Pushkin Theater. It's going to be Friday night, 2 shows. Do you need comps? And so the only poster, they didn't know me at all. My wife, Janice, who you met before, took the photograph, and it just said, "An evening with an American comedian."
That's all they had.
And the first show was at 7. They lined up at 4, 2 blocks around the block.
Unbelievable.
And so then when the audience came in, there were soldiers in the audience. There's all of these Russian and English-speaking people. And I walked out, and I had this thing of Gorbachev made that his arm would move on a thing. So I'm shaking hands in the wings with, they just see a handshake, and it rolled out. It was Gorbachev, and they went, "Oh my God, we're all going to get shot," you know. But it was, and then I spoke to him in Russian.
It's really amazing, even to watch now. You got a new show as well. I want to talk to you about that. More with Billy right after this break.